members of Mrs. Walters' 4th grade class and Miss Yates' AP Lit class who are going to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. So if those students and the teachers would come up front here, please. We're going to come up and we're going to turn around, face the audience and the camera all the way up here, guys. All right, I'm going to start with, we have Mrs. Walters here. Mrs. Walters, give a big wave. And from her class, we have Lily Ahrens, Peyton Day, Grace Rowley, and Krisha Thomas. And then from Miss Yates' class, we obviously have Miss Yake at the end there. We have Carly Bartarvich, Juliana Siglo, Haley Fortuna, Sophia Kessler, Clayton Maximuk, Anna Maxwell, Haley Reed, Emily Simmons, Courtney Tessmer, and Jessica Weaver. Thank you guys, we appreciate you coming and doing that. And if you will turn around, if we could all please rise for the pledge. We're ready when you are.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. Okay, next we have our mission statement, and Ryan Edberg is not here this evening, so Sarah is going to take care of that for us.
Here.
Here. Okay, thank you. Next is a motion to approve the agenda. Just want to make one change under the consent agenda. There is no B personnel, so C will now become B. It has been moved and supported. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next is approval of the consent agenda. Motion would be in order.
I make a motion to accept the consent agenda as presented.
Support.
Okay, it's been moved and supported. Any discussion? Brian?
No questions.
No questions? Okay. Dave, that was you that supported?
Yes.
Okay, it's been moved and supported. All those in favor, aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, next is our fun night that we have every year. We have a True Blue moment where we acknowledge great things that are happening in our district and in our community. And as always, every year in May, we get the chance to recognize our top 10 students from the graduating class. And so if, just before Mrs. Michon gets started, if we could have those students stand up for us. And then if we could get their parents to stand up as well. Yep. On behalf of the board, I just want to congratulate all of the students. We're very proud of your hard work and all the great things that you've done in high school, and we're sure that you're going to do even better things when you graduate. And to your parents, we thank you because it takes all your hard work as well to support your children and to be with them, to mold them into the great people that they've become. So thank you very much. Nice job to you as well. Congratulations. Mrs. Michon.
Ladies, gentlemen.
As they're getting ready, just so the board knows, we're going to have them all line up here at the end, and then we'll do a handshake at the very end.
Okay.
Good evening. It is both an honor and a privilege to present to you the top 10 seniors from the graduating class of 2018. I've asked them to introduce themselves and share with you their goals, their college, and one memorable, and I know they couldn't do it one, so I have a couple that asked for a couple, from their last 4 years here at Richmond High School. They will be presented in chronological order, starting with our 10th grade student, all the way down to number 1, based on their GPA here at the high school. So we are going to start off with Juliana.
Hi, my name is Juliana Siglo. I am ecstatic to be attending Ferry State University in the fall, and I am studying biology and pre-optometry. And for my memorable moment, I can't really narrow it down, but I just want to take this time and this chance to thank all of my teachers, because I don't know what I would have done without them. They really made it worth it, and it's been a good ride. Hi, I'm Courtney Tesmer, and I will be attending the University of Detroit Mercy for dental hygiene. And my most memorable moment would have to be winning the BWAC about an hour ago.
Hi, I'm Michael Bullock, and I will be attending Michigan State University, and I'll be studying chemical engineering. And I would say my most memorable moment would be winning districts in soccer.
Hi, my name is Emily Simmons, and I will be attending Oklahoma City University in the fall for dance performance. And my most memorable moment at RHS would be doing mock interviews with Mr. Murphy in yearbook class.
Hi, my name is Haley Fortuna, and I'll be attending the University of California, Berkeley in the fall to study political science, with my ultimate goal to be the President of the United States one day. And my most memorable moment at RHS would have to be making it to states for mock trial this year.
Well, hi, I'm Jessica Weaver. I will be attending Illinois Tech in the fall, and I'll be studying architectural engineering. One of my favorite memories here would probably be winning a gold key on my art portfolio in the Scholastics art competition.
Hi, my name is Anna Maxwell. I'm going to be attending the University of Michigan this fall, studying neuroscience and psychology. And my most memorable moment of high school will probably be being able to go to Washington, D.C. both my sophomore and senior year.
Hi, I'm Clayton Maximuk, and I'll be attending the University of Michigan as well in the fall, and I'll be studying computer science and data science. And my most memorable memory is probably just overall the extracurriculars I've done and all the connections I've made with teachers and students along the way.
Hi, my name is Sophia Kessler. I'm going to be attending the Michigan State University in the fall. I'll be majoring in animal science with pre-vet studies with the ultimate goal of becoming a vet. And my most memorable moment here was probably scoring my game-winning goal in the last 2 minutes against Imlay City, and probably like Courtney winning BWAC a little bit ago.
Hi, I'm Carly Bartarovich. I will be attending Lehigh University next fall, where I will study business. And my most memorable moment had to be winning softball stakes my sophomore year.
If you'll notice, we are going to have students all over the United States this year, so we do wish them well. At this time, and Mrs. Telto kind of stole my thunder, but I'm going to do it again. We would ask that the parents please stand, of our seniors. Please stand one more time. Thank you for your support and encouragement along the last 4 years. I am sure if it wasn't for you, your son or daughter would not be flourishing in education. We're going to ask at this time if you could please step forward and stand behind your students so that you can also be congratulated as our school board and superintendent walk around and congratulate them. So please step up. Sure.
Miss Ranger, can I get a picture?
If I taught him how to read.
Again, we would like to congratulate our top 10 students for the class of 2018. We wish them well in their travels and their education over the next 4 years.
Moving on, we'll move on to our presentations. This evening, in the month of May, we only have one meeting. So we are doing presentations, and then we're also going to have action items later in the meeting, since we're only meeting one time. So the first one is the overnight field trip, the European tour of Mrs. Smallwood.
I wanted to share this with you, board members, just so you know what trip entails. I asked Juliana to stay up here for a second because she can attest to our last tour, and her mom was with us as well, and Mrs. Ranger. The company that we used for this trip, Explorca, I was very pleased with everything, from the rooms to the, and Mr. Maxfield, yeah. From everything we saw and did and the schedule, I thought it was very well planned out, and I was very happy with the company and what it had to offer as far as price and everything that was included in the price. So getting good feedback from the group that went with me the first time in these most recent years, many people were asking, are you going to do another trip? So I gave it a year, and now I would like to plan another for next year, spring break of 2019. And the itinerary is in front of you. This is the trip I have in mind, and the pricing is there as well. This is the same company I used on the Spain trip, and the itinerary is a 9-day tour, 10-day rather, in which we will leave on a Thursday, So it would be the Thursday before that Good Friday, or I don't know if Easter falls that particular day. I don't think it does. So we would have to miss Thursday and Friday of school. And we'd come back on that Saturday or Sunday, somewhere in there, before school comes back into session prior to school starting and after spring break. So majority of this trip, we will be on our spring break. The itineraries, you can see we start out in Barcelona. I've seen lots of Spain, so I wanted to try a different tour that covers other countries, because many of the kids have been bugging to see Paris especially, but this particular tour, when you go from city to city, country to country, it's all by bus. And having gone on other tours and having to take ferries and trains and whatnot, planes, trains, and automobiles gets to be a little too much. So I'm content with just buses in between times. Other than that, I'm just asking for your approval to try and make this trip a go. I'd like to have a trip meeting this week with parents so I can give some more information to them. And if they sign up by May 31st of this year, they get the pricing that is listed there. Of course, anytime after that, the pricing goes up slightly as it's getting closer to the trip. So this is what I'm proposing, and to answer any questions, I'll be glad.
You have 18 or more students approximately. That's the interest you already have, is what you're saying? That's not how many
my
you
ideal
take.
number to travel. because
That's
I
the- that's the number you want.
Myself and two other chaperones in place. That's what I ran last time, was a Spain tour, and that was a good number, because the more you have, you get your own busing. So instead of having to pair up with other schools in the area or elsewhere, I'd rather it just be Richmond students on our bus. I've had that experience being with other schools, and it hasn't always worked in my favor in that they have to follow other rules that our kids don't have to follow. It's a little sticky sometimes. So an example I can give is one particular school, they allowed drinking, which of course we wouldn't, and that got to be ugly. So I prefer it's carpool. So the more I have, the better.
Do you know how many you have interested?
There's quite a bit of interest. A little more at the meeting this week. If the trip is a go, I'd like to have the meeting on Thursday before senior awards night.
Being the same company, I'm sure some parents, they did a payment plan, that's still the option for parents.
Everything is just like it was in the past.
No, they're very convenient.
You can pay in upfront, you can pay in monthly increments, you can set it up however you like. It's all online, it's really ideal.
Anybody else?
I just like to say you did a phenomenal job organizing the Spain trip. My daughter
Thank you.
did go in, and it was a wonderful experience. So if this is anything like it, I'm sure she'll be back.
Hope so.
Okay, thank you. Now, you don't have to, we kind of have a little bit of time before we're going to get back to our action item, so you don't have to wait.
Okay.
If you've got something else that you have to do, Mrs. Michon can let you know
Okay.
what we decide.
Great, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, next presentation, donation for athletic field improvements.
This item, when I spoke with Ms. Brennan, it's my fault, I'm supposed to be my name on it, so I apologize. But a couple weeks ago, Foster Oil and Mr. John Foster approached Mr. Reinhardt about donating concrete for a foundation at the girls' varsity softball field. And so in that process, we began talking about making sure that we are in compliance with not only Title IX, that we have equal and comparable, or I should say comparable facilities. In that conversation with Mr. Foster, they agreed to donate the cement for both the varsity girls softball field as well as the varsity boys softball field, which would be then where we can put bleachers at a future date. I passed out before this board meeting a diagram. On one side is the varsity diamond, and then the other side is the varsity baseball field. I also passed out with that same one the proposed action items. I'm recommending that the board accept the donation. You can see on the softball diamond, the diagram is behind the backstop and between the dugouts. And then on the baseball diamond, it would be two concrete pads that would be to the left of the visitor's dugout as you're looking at the field, and to the right of the home dugout as you're looking at the field. They both are comparable, so there's no issues there. We are in the process of working because Foster's is also looking at donating the bleachers. We got to make sure the bleachers are donated for the boys so that we have again, comparable facilities. But this would put the foundation. Any bleachers put on these would then save the wear and tear, because currently they're on grass in some areas, and when you're flipping the bleachers to cut the grass, it takes a toll on those bleachers. So my recommendation would be to accept the donation and to allow the concrete to be poured in both the two fields. In your backup that you have for the action item, there's a certificate of liability insurance that Foster's has provided us, as well as we do have, if we can't find donations, we would have the ability to do some student activities, internal accounts, not general fund, that we could look at getting some comparable bleachers if we had to. But we weren't at that point in the discussion. We're trying to make sure the foundation first and foremost is there.
So basically what we're approving is the concrete.
The donation of the concrete.
All the stuff about the bleachers is just to decide.
That will come to you at some point once we work out all the logistics on the bleachers, because we've got to make sure, number one, that they meet the code. I believe it's anything over 48 inches has to have a railing around it and so forth. And we want to make sure that there are bleachers at the varsity diamond too, varsity boys diamond.
Anybody have any questions? No. Okay, moving on. Item C, fiscal year 2019 budget presentation.
Okay, in your backup, I also left you in front, as I indicated, I was waiting on some of the documents are from the last boarding, not much has changed. This coming May is the revenue estimating conference, this coming Wednesday at 9, excuse me. It is anticipated that the school aid fund will be higher than what they're expecting, which would allow a lot of the differences in the budget between the governor, House, and Senate to be reconciled much quicker. The recommendation in the budget moving forward is the 230, which would be what the Senate, the governor, and the House, as I said previously, is 240, but we're going by the lower number. I gave you a snapshot of the differences between the budgets. I don't see any change. We have a couple more, and I started putting in your newsletter the kindergarten and preschool numbers for next year to give you a sense. We have 80 known kindergartners, but about 70 of them are registered and ready to go. We are working with the other 10. The budget anticipates 90 kindergartners, so we're still short, but we still have a lot of time between now and the beginning of the school year. The next sheet that's in the budget history, it just is a snapshot of where we are financially. With the 230 and our estimated student count, that would put us about 37.67 FTEs less than this year, but with the increase in revenue, it would actually be 30,000 more in revenue. So our structural problem would be about $109,000. And we've talked about how we would resolve that as we're narrowing down. One of the questions that came up.
Can I just say, so you're saying you think it's going to be 240 instead of 230?
230 is what I'm building the budget on.
But you're saying
lower.
you heard it was going to be more.
the revenue, at the end of May, they do a revenue estimating conference. Basically, it's all the financial people get together, look at the taxes and so forth. That money is anticipated to be higher than what they projected it to be. Being higher, it allows some of the differences to be worked out. For instance, in one of the budgets, they called for a reduction of only funding 75% of the foundation for online learning. In another budget, it was 100%. So that extra revenue may put it back to where it is currently at 100%. It may put it back to being 240 as our per pupil. If that's the case, then we're in a better position. Roughly $10 more per pupil. So.
And the language here, basic foundation and minimum foundation allowance. Explain that.
The way the state funds schools back from 1996 when Proposal A was passed, or 94, there were districts that were receiving quite a bit more money than others. So there is a basic foundation allowance, or what we call often referred to as the minimum. That's what we are. That's what most districts in the state of Michigan are. But there are districts that receive a higher amount. So in all three budgets, they would use the 2X formula, which basically says those lower districts receive basically twice as much as those higher districts, with the idea that eventually you're closing the gap between the high-funded school districts and the lower-funded school districts. And when you get into the basic, that's when you're dealing with online university or online charters, which receive the basic foundation, the minimum per pupil amount. It's a formula that has been around for many years, well, since the mid-90s, when it was Proposal A, but it's, for us, it's a very good formula. In general, a lot of your larger districts do not like the formula because they get less of an increase.
That's when we close the gap.
Correct.
Actually, if you give them nothing, it close the gap even more.
So you have the backup on it. I feel pretty confident that the anticipation is that the revenue conference will be this Wednesday. It's at 9 o'clock. Next week is the like on the conference. It's at Mackinac Island. You're going to see it on the news because typically the mayor of Detroit goes and all the key legislation and governor will be there. But they anticipate the budget to be approved conceptually by the state by June 1st, which is normal. And then they'll come back and do some finite tweaks to it. But right now it's in conference committee where they try to negotiate to get everybody on the same field. That one budget. The other document that you have, I believe it's the next sheet. At the last meeting, I broached the subject about freshman sports and middle school sports. About currently, we are projected at the end of this year to have $0 in our HS 104 account, which is the money that's been raised through fundraising gets deposited into that account, and that's what we pay for costs that are covered by pay to participate or paid receipts. It averages about $8,000 to $10,000 depending on the year. And so one of the concepts that I brought to the board in the budget consideration is, do we just consider absorbing that cost in our budget and eliminate the idea of raising a fund for freshman sports? I think it was you, Margaret, asked me for the number. I can't remember which board member did.
How many kids participated?
So for the last 2 years, you'll see in the middle school, our net, we are down 9 students in middle school sports. Over the previous year, we currently have roughly 181, and the previous year was 190. At the high school in freshman sports, we did not run the freshman girls basketball this year. We didn't have enough numbers to run it. We're down 20 students participating in freshman sports from last year to this year. Now we are down students overall, so that would be expected. So these are where our numbers are at. I did share with you last time, and I read it out loud, but I do have a copy if you'd like it, what BWACs are offering freshman sports, if you want to look at that. I read it out loud last time, it might have been a little confusing, just kind of following along, so. And in this is, North Branch is listed on here, because beginning next year, North Branch joins the BWAC League, and K-PAC exits the BWAC League. Any questions on freshman sports?
I think the other question that came about was the idea that there was a fundraiser last August, maybe?
Yeah.
And that money was used this current year to fund for this current year.
Correct. The
Activities.
fundraiser that was last August, I believe it was the Sunday before school, the Sunday prior to Labor Day. Next week, 10 days prior to Labor Day. That money was, all the money that was raised, the athletic boosters, because they had the license. They took the money and then they turned around and wrote a check to the district, which went into the HS 104 account to pay for the freshman sports for this year.
For this current year.
That fundraiser didn't yield as much as the previous fundraiser we did for the college bingo. For that.
That it paid for this year.
Paid for this year. So the question's going to be is, that I ask the board is, if you want to absorb that roughly $8,000, I'm using an average because it changes a little each year based on costs and where they're going, or do we want to continue having this be a fundraised program? And if that's the case, then we would have to make sure the parents and the group that fundraisers can organize a fundraiser, because, for instance, that case, that fundraiser started, we're already practicing freshmen, some of the fall sports in 2 weeks into August. I believe it's like August 13th-ish is the start of when you can, so we could potentially be starting to practice before we have any dollars to run the fall. And then we do run the risk if we don't raise the money, what do we do at that point if we're in the middle of a season?
What's being done to raise the money? Nothing?
At this point, there is not, there's not a group that has come forward or is willing to take it on. It's you know, the check couch at bingo that was run is a lot of work, and there was a core group of parents that did it, and I'm very thankful for them to do it. But at this point, there's not anything planned.
Would these kids be absorbed into higher level sports? Would that be the idea? Would they go up into other sports?
We did JV, and based on the numbers, when you look at, for instance, I don't have JV basketball on here. I'm assuming, Mr. Reiner, do you know off the top of how many are in JV basketball currently?
Girls or boys?
Boys.
Boys, roughly.
Boys, we had 13, I believe.
So we have room for 2 more on that. So
I'm sorry, what?
Well, roughly 2 more players. We typically have a team of 15 on a JV
Yeah, the rest
team.
would have had to do with that.
So if we had, just assume these numbers held true, 10 kids try out to freshmen, we're going to be cutting 8 of those students from the team.
And if we offer boys basketball, we have to offer girls basketball, or it could be offered
We
boys
have to-
basketball and girls volleyball.
We have to offer an equal sport for boys and girls to participate. If the numbers aren't there, like basketball, then we don't have to run it, but we have to at least offer it. It's the same thing, I guess, when you look at softball. I don't think we've ever run softball freshmen, or at least many years. If the numbers are there, we could run it, but we don't usually have the numbers to do interest.
It's not just a girls sport, boys sport, it's the identical sport.
No, it can be, it's not necessarily identical sports, it's an option for them to play. I'd have to pull up the Title IX guidance, get more specific on that. Like, for instance,
A
in the
girl
fall.
could play varsity baseball.
the-
Right, yeah,
Okay. So,
or JV baseball, whatever. Yes.
so it's not a sport. It's not how girls and boys.
I'll I'll be honest, this is not my expertise on that one. I didn't pull it.
How do they identify, like,
Wait, hold on. I don't think,
I'm sorry, I didn't know this was not picking me up, so I
it's not
apologize.
picking you up, because I can hardly hear you too.
How do they identify equality in the offering of girls and boys sports for Title IX?
If the opportunity presents itself, you have to give them the opportunity. For example, if we have a freshman baseball team, we have to give the opportunity for a freshman softball team if we have the participation numbers to offer it.
We've never done that.
Equal opportunity.
Well,
We've never done that.
No.
We've never had a
Not for
freshman softball team.
Right.
Ever, I think, in the history.
It's rare. It's
So,
very rare.
But
so
there-
we haven't been doing that.
No, we haven't. The conversation has been with every administrator, is there an interest in softball? The typically is no. But it was Mr. Bordeaux, Mr. Mylar, missing one. Jim, Benoit, thank you, and then Ms. Ryan. We just have not had an interest to run it. And typically, you're getting your interest from your feeder program. Now, softball's a little challenging because we don't have a middle school feeder program. So you're
We
looking.
have a highly successful summer program. So I guess I'm just wondering, I don't know how we can say that there's no interest. I don't know that that's true. There's never been a freshman team offered. So if you want to tell me that there's not enough numbers for 3 teams, but to say that there hasn't been, that we've offered it, I don't know that that's true. Because we've never had one. And, I mean, we have a very successful softball in this
Oh, yeah,
community.
we do.
So I argue that point.
It's participation numbers. It's the
So,
amount of-
okay, so then let's call it that.
Yeah.
Let's call it the fact we don't have the participation, not that we're offering it and the interest isn't there. There's not enough girls interested in playing softball to make 3 teams.
Yes.
Correct.
Okay. When we look at a baseball team, a freshman baseball team that has 10 kids, I guess I just, it takes 9, we got 10. Hope to God 2 don't get hurt. So how does that benefit anybody? By just having 10, let me get my notes correct. By having a freshman baseball team, how does that hurt the program by not having it? If there's only 10, I mean, I don't know how many's on the JV team.
It's amount of playing time. So if the JV absorbs those 10 student athletes, then the sophomores and the juniors that are currently playing JV or the freshmen moving up, they steal playing time from each other.
Yeah, you have about, that'd be about 23 players, so you have to cut 8 kids.
And you don't cut anybody in baseball? Do you cut at the freshman level?
Not this year, we have.
We have. And we didn't have girls basketball because we didn't have the interest, but we've got,
Are we down to 5 in the girls' basketball?
remember, girls basketball.
Freshman basketball.
We
Freshman
had
basketball.
we had 9 8th grade girls that played this year.
Currently, this year, were we down to 5 that were on the team after something?
It was 6 or 7, I believe, but it was, some of those freshmen were absorbed into the JV because we had smaller numbers in the JV.
You know, I'm saying 8th grade girls. We didn't have a freshman team this year, but we had 9 girls that played 8th grade basketball. So if we're sitting 0, I'm looking at 0 going, okay, that means there's nobody can play, but is that necessarily true? These 9 girls that played 8th grade maybe would want to play 9th grade next year.
That's what we're hoping for.
There's been some changes in the coaching staff, so I think that the last 2 years is that since we're trying to rebuild the program and that feeder program to get to that varsity level, which does affect when you have that instability among a program.
And there's no 8th grade cheerleading at all?
And
Just 7th grade?
cheerleading is group, the number that we have pulled out is 7th and 8th grade together. So there's 21,
So those are 7th and 8th graders.
that's 7th and 8th grade cheerleading.
And that's the same for the competitive cheer?
And same as well for the 16, 17, and the 17, 18.
Is there a way to move forward in saying, yes, things will happen in the fall with a really clear all call to go out to parents saying, we need assistance with this again? Is that a plan for moving forward? That seems
If we want to continue fundraising for freshman sports, we can certainly do that. I would just ask that the board give us some latitude, because we're going to need some of the administrative to kind of get that out there. Find those leaders to help us coordinate that fundraiser.
Well, could we say, since we stopped the funding for however long ago, could we say that we would want to do it for a year? It's
You mean
8,000.
fund it for a year?
Fund it for a year. That's what the board, I mean, I don't know what anyone else is thinking, but I'm just throwing it out there. You fund it for a year with the idea that, you know, I mean, it's $8,000, it's $8,000 we could do other things with, but if, with the understanding that, you know, it's,
Well, that they didn't get a free year, but that they were actually like using that as a bank.
because it kind of
So
was a
this year-
bank.
Right, this
Right.
year they would still fundraise for the coming year, but they would have that money in
Even to offset the
to
8,000.
offset it and move forward from there. But when you're starting at zero every single fall, or every spring for the next fall, it makes it difficult.
But, yeah, but I don't think it's been that way. I think just this year it's that way.
Well, 2 years
Right.
ago it was that way. For the first couch at Bingo.
The first couch at Bingo, we raised enough money for 2
For
years.
2 years, right.
To finish that, the year that we were doing, to get us through the following year. And then between that and what we raised this past August, got us through this year, the end of this year. So when we start finalizing the budget in June is really where I'm going to be looking to the board, like proceeding.
No, I
with-
think you need to have a direction. That's the whole point of the conversation. So what does everyone else think?
I'm in favor of trying to find a way to keep freshman sports.
We already have freshman sports, we're just talking about funding.
To fund it with the Christian year, because I think that it's a program that's worthwhile to fund.
I agree with you. Funding, because it's a great feeder program, and it's a great thing to have.
I say there needs to be a buffer here with the parent interest to fundraise again for the future.
Fund it, but encourage fundraising, and then if we don't get the fundraising we're looking for, I think we have to reevaluate next year with what our budget is, but right now I would say we should.
So I think we're saying that we would do it with the idea that there's got to be some movement for fundraising in the next year, and we'll reevaluate it at next year's budget.
So fund it for 18-19 school year, have some type of fundraiser with parents during the 18-19 school year, and then bring it back for the board to consider based on what funds were raised for the 19-20 school year, the year after that.
Yep. Right?
Yeah, you have
Yes.
181 students in work with, right?
Right.
Ish.
Well,
So
plus,
this is-
plus 45.
The other piece on the budget, between our last board meeting and this board meeting, it really does not impact our general fund. But we received our preliminary allocations for title funds. I think there's an extra one for Tammy and Terry down there with that. So I just wanted to bring to the board's attention that through this process, we have to submit a grant to the Michigan Department of Education. They review our grant and decide whether it fits in with our school improvement plan and so forth. Oftentimes, it's not even approved by the MDE until during the summer. We have to submit it by July 1st or to be able to encumber money if we wanted any of these grants to start July 1. So currently, our title allocation for next year is being decreased by $44,415. So what we will be doing is working with the administration at Lee, myself, Mr. Berkmeyer, sitting down and say, okay, of our total allocation, which is projected to be $251,000 for next year, how are those funds being allocated? There is a possibility, I'm just going to say possible, because anything is possible because the state has to approve the grant, that any staff that is paid out of currently paid out of Title I may no longer be able to be supported, and so we may have to reduce staff. I really won't have that picture for you until August, once we go through the summer and then approving the grant. But in the general fund, the budget you approve, any decrease in revenue, there's automatically going to be a decrease in expenses equal to that. From that angle. Title II, we currently receive $68,000 roughly. Next year, we are expected to receive $45,000. That's a decrease of $23,000 in Title II funding. All of these are from the federal government. If you're watching the news with our recommendations from the Education Secretary, Ms. DeVos, she has several reductions to program and funding for schools. That Title II is strictly professional development that we utilize in our district. So what we're able to afford next year is going to be different from what we can afford this year. In that total allocation, it's just important to remember, we're obligated to work with the private schools that are within our boundaries. And I believe, Mr. Berkmeyer, is it within 25 miles of the district? Or what's the radius that we have to contact?
They recommend, we have to do our due diligence in contacting every student that is a resident of Richmond that could be.
So if 25 miles.
25 miles.
So if we have a school that's 25 miles outside of our boundaries, and that student is a resident of Richmond, but attending that parochial school, we have to do our due diligence to make sure that school is notified, and if they follow the process, part of this allocation would be given to them. Currently, St. A's and St. Pete's gets the chunk of the private school allocation because they have some of our students that live within our district. So that's the same thing for Title I and then Title IV. Title IV was new this year. It was basically school safety. We moved our liaison officer. We got the $25 per pupil for the high school. When this came out late, it was school safety, so we moved our liaison funds there. So it would free up that $25 to help with the general fund and to be able to encumber the grant. We are showing an increase in that allocation of about $8,000. So our net of these three grants is a net less of approximately $60,000. So through the process that we submit these grants, we will work through what we're able to afford and what we're not able to afford. So there is, like I said, the potential of reduction in staff, reduction of programming for Title I. Not only during the school year program, but the summer programs as well.
Brian, will there be a document that comes out that compares that information for all the county school districts so that we could get an idea of how this hit the entire county?
I believe that the allocation sheet, do we have access to the whole state on that
The
allocation?
allocation comes out and it does show every school in the state.
So we can sort it by the county, yeah, so we can get that allocation. Again, these are preliminary. If Congress does something different to restore this funding, that's great. But typically, the preliminaries are typically what we end up getting.
I just think it would be important for everybody to know how this is played out with the funding at the federal level, locally, what it means.
this Title IV, the additional money, is that's all the stuff that's going on with the safety and what's happening in the schools and that? So is that to be used for like training for staff or additional security,
There's
like
some
camera,
various
that kind of
guidelines.
stuff?
It's basic school safety. I don't know.
Title IV has 4 areas in which it can be used in as part of the HESA regulations that Title IV came out. School safety is one of the 4 areas. Advanced learning, so higher education opportunities for advanced students is another area. Only 10% of those funds can be used for special ed.
So of that 18,000, 10% is about 1,800, and a portion of that is for the private schools too. That can be used for professional development.
Okay.
I don't know if there's any other questions, or as you've had a chance to talk about what we discussed at the last budget, but we're on track to bring you a budget that would significantly reduce the structural deficit. Well, right now I got to calculating the contract language and what that impact is on the budget. We do have the expense that is going away, our energy bond, which that dollars, as we previously talked, has been earmarked to address settlements of contracts as we settle those contracts. So I'm not anticipating that being any increase in revenue for us as a district, just to cover contracts.
Brian, I have a question. Can you give us an update on what we discussed last week about transporting the treasure funds? The last time we talked, I was under the impression you were going to contact them, but after speaking with you earlier, I just wanted to get an update.
Yes, Board Member Gillis called me today to ask if I had contacted. I have not contacted Treasure Friends. My intent is when you get the budget with all of these assumptions, that it will be listed, so we have what our revenue is going to be, what our enrollment is going to be, with athletics now that money being put in there, and then with Treasured Friends, to have the board approve it. Once the board approves the budget, then I would then notify them if that's the voice of the board. The direction that I guess the tenor for the direction is the right word, was that we would not be running Treasured Friends bus stops next year. We don't currently have any, or any bus stops to private business entities. So as we're building the budget, that would be something we prepare along with like some freshman sports stuff.
So obviously, my only concern with that is that that's not until June 25th, right?
We are anticipating to approve the budget on June 25th.
So obviously, it's an additional month and a half that families go without knowing to make plans, and I don't want us to get into the same spot we got into at the beginning of last year, where we're not giving families enough time to prepare, because this is a big shift for some families. So I just want to, it does seem like a little late to be notifying families already in the summer to make plans for September.
And I guess I just thought that the direction was that we weren't going to do that, so I would assume that we would just make contact rather than wait.
I guess because it wasn't listed on the agenda last meeting as a vote, ending it wasn't even what was proposed by Brian. Brian was proposing an increase. I didn't realize, I guess I left not knowing. I did think that it was a decision that was made to end it, but then after talking with Brian, it sounded like more of a formal vote is something that we would do when it comes to budget time, or if we put it on the agenda ahead of time. But we didn't even, it wasn't on the agenda. We didn't even give, families or parents a chance to come and state their concerns with it. So I think they should have that opportunity, being members of the community who it impacts. I feel like it should go on the agenda at some point for them to come and speak if they would like to. And one thing that we didn't get, and I didn't ask this last time, but I'm curious, Brian, we hired you to be the superintendent and to lead us down the path you think we should go. I am curious what your actual recommendation is in a situation like this.
in terms of whether we should bus to treasured friends or not?
Or charge, which was
Or
the,
charge.
recommendation we had at the
Well,
last.
my recommendation is to create a fee,
Yes.
so that it opens that if there is any business that falls within the busing transportation zone, that if they want transportation for us to pick up a spot and bring them to our school, that there's a fee. And I think I create a calculation of, going by memory, about $400 a year, but it's based on $4 a mile roughly. We got 180 days there and
I think
back.
it was 500.
Or 500 and so forth. But I got the sense from the board that we didn't want to go down the fee structure. We were going down the elimination, which so in my budget presentation, it's going to list not running stock, not necessarily just treasure friend, but any business entity that falls within the transportation zone.
Well, and I think if we go back to the beginning of the school year, the whole, where this all came from was the policy and the interpretation of the policy. And Brian interpreted the policy a certain way, and that was how he was going to have it go. And then a big discussion happened, and so Brian made the decision to back off of that, even though I believe that there was sentiment on the board to not do that, and that we said we would talk about it when it came time for budget. I don't, it doesn't have to be an agenda item, it doesn't have to be a vote, anything like that. It's part of the budget talk, so it's voted on when we talk about the budget. And just as we talked about tonight with the freshman sports, the direction was to not do that. And that was the direction, that was the majority of the board. So I thought that a contact would be made because that's the direction the board is going. And when it comes down to in June, that's what the vote will be because it's part of that budget. I agree that I don't think waiting until June 25th is fair or appropriate. I don't know what's the right word, but the direction from the board was that we weren't going to do that. So this is just my opinion, and there's others that need to speak up. I don't think we have to wait until June 25th to vote on the budget. We're not waiting until June 25th. Mr. Reinhardt knows that we want to fund the $8,000 for the freshman sports. That's the direction we're going. We want it. He's certainly not going to wait until June 25th to make sure we all vote for it to decide whether he's going to run freshman sports. It's the same thing.
But we could also, we just talked about freshman sports and we kind of gave our direction. Until the budget is approved, is that an official thing, Brian, or is that still, could we still change our mind?
Well, I guess the question would be is if I take in the budget, the 8,000 out in revenue from, we have 8,000 less in revenue now, we're going to keep the expenses. And is the treasured friends, any of the others?
Let's stop saying treasured
or
friends. Correct.
The business
Correct.
entities that fall within the transportation zone, creating a bus stop for them. So if I put all that together in the budget, and when you go to vote on the budget, is there someone here who's going to say, I'm going to vote no on the budget because I want the business stopped? Or someone's going to vote
But
no
Brian,
on
that
the...
could happen anytime.
Correct, so I'm going to
Anybody on this
notify,
board can-
so potentially we could be on June 25th, have not an approved budget. And I've
True.
already notified them
True.
that we're not. So my position is, if the board, if that's the voice of the board, then let's vote on it. And we'll be done with it, and I will move forward and notify them. But the risk that I have is I'm going to notify them, and if there's any member on this board who's not going to vote for the budget on the 25th because of that, or because of athletics, or because of any other issue, we may be calling a special meeting to try to get the budget approved by June 30th. And I don't know, that's what I'm asking for. I do have the direction the board has kind of given me verbally at the last meeting. I got the direction the board given me on athletics, and we will put that into the budget.
So, I guess, is it something we're voting on? You're saying yes, but we're not voting until June 25th.
I was putting it on the 25th to say, These are all the assumptions we built this budget on, because that becomes, I guess, the official document that we operate next school year on.
And I don't think we should vote on anything that's separate when we're talking budget. I don't know why it might not be appropriate to, based on discussions leading up to, we're voting on the final budget in June. It's a public meeting, and people that have been to our meetings and have issues, just like anything else, they can come forward, that would be the time when we would be voting on everything. Pulling things out and voting on them separate as we go along through the budget that's just not proper, I don't think. But I don't know that it would not, why would it not be, again, I'm going to use Mr. Reinhardt's example. He is certainly going to move forward with the idea that potentially he's going to be able to run freshman sports. He didn't think he was going to, maybe before the meeting tonight, but based on this conversation, in his mind, he has to start planning that he possibly is going to have freshman sports, and that he's going to have to get people to know that, well, the schedule, but get people to know that this is for 1 year, and that parents have to get involved, that he's going to have to be the voice for that. So regardless of whether we're voting for it on June 25th, he has to start making his plans for athletics. So why would it be any different that we talked about this transportation, that we communicate to the business that says, this is the direction the board is going. In all likelihood, this is what's going to happen. There is going to be, it will be finally voted on June 25th. Anyone is welcome to come and talk, but just to give a heads up that this is coming down the pipe, whether people have watched our meetings or have been here. To me, it's the same kind of notification that we're giving to the athletic department. We would give it to that group. We talk when the teachers union, when we have our conversation and we talk about possibly we may have to cut a teacher, and we talk that it's going to happen. They fully know that that's a night that could happen, and you plan for it, and then sometimes it comes where it doesn't happen. I think it's the same
How
thing.
many sessions we're going to have in
Correct.
kindergarten.
Yep.
I mean,
But none of those notifications are given until the board approves the budget.
correct.
But they certainly know that it could be coming.
They have an idea of
Just on being at the meeting. So
You have an idea of the direction of the board. We're not going to add all those extra kids to them, spread them out over kindergarten classes. We're going to add another teacher when we get over a certain number.
Correct.
Right. And that's what the idea is of consensus.
that
And
would
that's
just.
why I thought they would be notified 3 weeks ago. So that's why when I talked with Brian earlier and they hadn't been, I was a little surprised. Because now we're 3 weeks post and they haven't heard from us that it was even discussed, so.
They being the business or they being the parents?
I would say the business, and then it's the business responsibility to inform the parents. Because I wouldn't know, I don't know if you know who all those kids are or not, but I feel like we should at least be communicating with the business, since it's something that if the direction of the board is going that way, they still don't know, and it's 3 weeks post. I think that is wrong, irresponsible.
I don't know that I would use irresponsible, but,
Word I use.
right.
Well, in this town, I'm sure they've heard it from.
Yeah, I'm sure it's not a
They might have,
secret.
but not the right.
Well, then obviously,
So-
there's a letter, someone knows about it, so it's obviously out there, right?
Right.
Everybody knows
Yeah,
about
but
it,
that's
but
different
how
from
do we
having-
know everybody?
That's different from being officially communicated at a school
Well, I'm not
district.
saying it's the same. It's
Okay.
Oh, okay. I
So-
thought you were.
So do we think that would be a direction? Do you think when I'm making the example of the athletics in this, do we think that's kind of along the same idea?
Yes.
And I would hope that once they're informed, then we may see parents come, but how do they know? Not everybody might have heard. So I would like to see if people do have an issue with it, then they have at least the opportunity to still come and speak at public comments.
We have 2 meetings in June.
Correct.
So the letter would be to, the direction the board is going is to eliminate a business spot in the transportation zone. And it will be officially approved upon at the June 25th board, or anticipated to be approved on the June 25th.
I think in all fairness, all daycares in the area should be notified of that. affect
service.
that service, but it could next year.
If they request it.
Right.
Is the board okay with me sending a letter out to the current 7th grade parents? Because it will affect them in freshman sports when their child hits freshman. That for next year,
Well, yeah, I mean, I just think, again, there's Mr. Reinhardt, knowing what the board, the direction the board is going. So I would think information should come from somewhere at some point this year. This next school year. That, you know, this is what the board has decided for 1 year, and then that information gets out so that they know that it's coming. The 8th grade parents and in 9th grade, they're going to be funded, but we don't know what's going to happen with the 7th grade. The 7th graders. Okay.
that's all I have on the budget.
Okay, next is the bond project.
In your packet, you'll see the first document is a summary of what was accomplished through Series 1 and 2 that was beyond the scope of the roofs, the technology, the addition, etc. The highlighted items are the stuff that was completed. You can see by building what that was. The second document that's in your packet is Series 3. We closed on that bond on Wednesday. We have confirmation that a $990,000 has been deposited into our account. We'll have to wire, I think it's about $5,000 to the state of Michigan for processing, but roughly $990,000. In your document that I gave you on Friday, there were 2 items that are on the board agenda for tonight. One is the first of the 2 bus purchases out of that $990,000, and the second is the camera system to get all the buses that are currently using VHS and the new buses to have the same video system as the other buses. I will be giving you the quote on the bus is about $300 difference, so here's just another number or corrected one. When we started looking at make sure all the T's were crossed and I's are dotted, we noticed a piece of it. So some of the items looking on Series 3 would be we have projected 2 bus purchases. We anticipate them to be around $100,000. The bus bid that came in through the Michigan Bus Purchasing, which is what we do as a state bidding system, came in at $81,523. The camera system, we estimated about $18,000, came in at $17,944. So those are the 2 items on the agenda tonight. So this document shows the revised dollar for the, it's exactly the same, I just changed in red. So you had the, should the board approve the bus purchase. The other aspects looking at of that $990,000, looking at the middle school gym sound system. That sound system did not get replaced in the last one. I would ask the board to consider looking at the auditorium lighting. I'm going to talk a little bit more about the culinary arts. We did not replace music chairs and stands, which was in the last Series 2. Upgrading our Wi-Fi access points. You'll see the device over there by the exit. Currently, 30 devices hook into those, and at the time that was the highest we could get at the time we purchased them. The one on top of the bookcase over there is the one that we're piloting right now, which takes 500 or 300, 500, hooks up to 500 devices. So we're going from 30 to 500, which is the current standard. You'll see some projected computer lab upgrades, and then looking at the one-to-one device. And that's one of the pieces that we would be looking at. What does that look like? pull together a group of individuals, see if we're going to look at replacing the laptop or if we want to look at becoming a BYOD, which allows students to bring their own device, which could be cell phones, laptops, rather than getting a school-issued one. Many of our students use it, but we would have to upgrade the wireless in order to go to what's called a BYOD, upgrade your own device. So that's projected the budget. In that original budget, which is column H, about $400 was not allocated for. With the buses coming in under budget and the camera system slightly under budget, it leaves us about $18,900 to reallocate, which I would put that in the one-to-one device. Because at some point, that's what we need to do. Before I get into the colors, any questions on where I'm at here with this?
The bus is the same bus, you know,
It is a gas-powered bus that we bought last year. It's the same style bus.
So you're planning on upgrading the camera system from VHS to digital?
Correct. There are there's 8 cameras. One is for the new one. There are 6 buses, I believe, that are VHS. The last year bus does not have a video system on. We want to put it on, and the 8th one would be the current one that we're busing. And then next year's bus purchase, within that bus price, we would add about $2,500 more to put the camera on that bus that we purchased at that time.
So the storage of the information from the digital system, is that married to the current digital system we've got for surveillance in the district, or is that
It's a separate system.
whole separate? Any chance that they could be married, so you've just got one surveillance system that's, maintaining all of those records as opposed to, because you've got surveillance in parking lots and high schools and middle schools and buses. It'd be nice if it was all in
Check into that.
one thing.
I'll check it out. See if we can get it really good. Okay, the second item is when we launched the culinary arts program, we started last year with one section. The course has grown in popularity. The original plan that we looked at was using the culinary, the old home ec room, thank you, Ms. Michon, I had a brain freeze. Home ec room, and also potentially looking at using, if we need to be, the kitchen. And now running the course, the kitchen's really not an option. So we need to bring up, in order to get CTE funds and have it a CT officially certified course, we have to have an operational kitchen. And so I attached to your board packet a drawing. I did print a larger one out if you'd like to look at that drawing. Myself, Ms. Michon, Mr. Estrada, met with French and Associates, who's done pretty much all of our architect drawing, consultants regarding designing a food service kitchen, as well as talking to a former culinary arts teacher and get his input on it. And so the room that you're looking at, kind of top to bottom, it's basically one large classroom, and then in the back part, or the bottom part of the drawing, is a room that has a couple stoves in it right now. It's kind of, and if you'd like, either before or after the board meeting or at any other time, I'm more than happy to take you into the room. Basically what we would do is we would create an eating area, which is the top part of the drawing. By those 4 chairs, it would seat up to 24 people. Then you'd have several prep zones. So for instance, going left to right in the middle, you'll see a sink that's angled in the corner. And then you'll see next to it, it's drink stations and so forth, silverware. Going across, you'll see a large box. And on your document in the backup, there's a number on this map which equates to the backup documentation. Is a freezer fridge similar to what we have in the science rooms. In the center there, you'll see 3 square tables of the teaching zone. If a teacher's in there demonstrating an activity, you have enough room, and we literally have drawings of kids around it. So space-wise, everything will fit for what a typical student needs in space. In the back part, you'll see a stove, which is along the wall, that wall that goes into that bottom room. In that second room, you'll see a dishwashing 3-compartment sink, which is part of the program. You'll see a prep zone for bakery, which is also in there. You'll see a zone for sandwich and salad making. So there are 6 zones, and part of the courses is as students learn about each one, and when you're actually running an official restaurant, which would be primarily in year 2, though they do a lot of the cooking in year 1, their actual running is more of a year 2. Basic kids are in each zone. So they've had training and they've gone through the safe serve and they've gone through all the stuff, so they know what to do with the sanitation, etc. So this would create a restaurant in the high school that would accommodate approximately 24 students, which is what we typically run the class. This year, we had 60 students asked to be in culinary arts next year. And we don't have culinary arts 2 because most of the students that were in it this year, not all, but most were seniors. Next year, there's a good chunk that are underclassmen, not seniors. And so in the 19-20 school years when we would run year 2. So next year, we're looking at running 2 culinary arts 1 classes. And so as we were selling the bonds and looking at the description and being, since we've done renovation, we are able to use bond funds to do this because of the scope that we identified as renovations in the high school. We anticipate that's a high number. I budgeted high because by being a CT class now that we've run it, when we get those CT dollars, some of the supplies or materials that are used to be used to offset the cost by that. But we couldn't use CT dollars this year because we were just starting the program. I believe was it January we did all the paperwork and documentation to send into the state to be an approved program. What hopefully this will also help us with is right now it's back to the old, but if students have to have 2 years of a foreign language, and it used to be where they waived it that if you finish a CT course, you didn't have to have 2 years, you have 1 year. Beginning with this year's incoming 9th grade, it's back to 2 years unless the legislation does something, which they are anticipating doing something about, to give that flexibility.
Right, so what you're saying is in the original plan, this third set of money, we're not taking something out to put this in. You understand what I'm saying from the original plan?
It's still addressing the one-to-one and the
Yes,
bus
and the
purchase.
bus.
What we need to have a conversation as a district, because when we bought the one-to-one 3 years ago,
Correct.
we have less students next year, or in a year after, we're going to wait on another year. So what does that one-to-one technology purchase look like? Is it a different type of device or replacing existing laptop? That's the conversation. But the intent of that third series was 2 remaining buses and the one-to-one technology. There were some, as I indicate on this list, that we didn't do that we might want to consider doing. And like I said, auditorium light, we are going through bulbs left and right on the stage lighting. If we want to do half of it and phase that in at some point, we could look at that. But that's a large investment to fix, to replace those light fixtures.
Brian, what happens with the current food service equipment that's in here now?
Currently in that room, there really isn't food service equipment. There's some mixers that were purchased through funds. Those will stay there. But it's like a mini kitchenette, I guess would be the describe, like 4 stations. It was, if you home ec, it wasn't a industrial or kitchen. This is bringing it all up to stainless steel, a industrial oven that they can actually cook multiple things. They'll have a bakery oven in there. Like I said, the 3-compartment sink, which doesn't exist right now. You'll see hand washing stage, which we have, but But when we start looking at code, when we get to that point, you need them so many feet apart from each other. There's a lot of regulations that guide a school kitchen that are very similar to our kitchens in each of our schools.
Would this pose a problem with additional electricity or hot water or anything like that to accommodate the ovens and the sinks and
The additional electrician we would have, and that's part of that $65,000 that was budgeted in terms of there's an electrical cost that's built into that number.
does anyone other than culinary students have access to this facility?
Going forward, it would be the culinary students because it has to be kept up to that I guess, code or that regulation. Currently, under a teacher supervision, like the CI students, Mrs. Taylor's class, sometimes goes in and they've done a Christmas brunch. They cook and they invite guests in. They just did one Cinco de Mayo thing. So it's not that we couldn't not allow it, but we'd have to restructure how the supervision of that using that equipment. We took a stab last year in terms of we had an interest when we did a survey of culinary arts. It has grown. I think part of it has been the instructor as well as the kids in it. They partnered with the TV program and they've done cooking shows, which have been pretty phenomenal. And so they are thinking of things to do with this program that we never even kind of imagined initially, but they're taking it to that next level.
And there aren't any year 2 students?
We want to, and so what we're looking at doing is an internship with them, and we'll place them in those. They'll be with the year 1, but we'll do a kind of a separate curriculum for them so they can get that information. So, like I said, in your board packet tonight, you have the revised, and I think I passed out the bus. It was $2 difference, and it included the explanation there, as well as the camera system, which you had on Friday. Any questions on the bond?
No?
I just want to thank Ms. Michon and Mr. Estrada because they spent a lot of hours looking at this and designing it and getting student impact and the movement flow, and so we're really looking forward to this. So the anticipated time would be in the June board meeting. June 11th and 25th would be when we start issuing some RFPs to begin the construction. The anticipation, if we started it in the summer, it would go through roughly the end of October, which is fine because the beginning of the school year, we're doing more safe serve, which is not necessarily needing the space, so we could use a different environment.
Right, so the current timeline is for that aspect of it not to be up and running.
At the beginning, it will not be, I can guarantee that.
It won't be.
But it will be at a point when they start, where they start needing to use the kitchen and cooking. That's all I have.
Okay, thank you. Moving on, looking for a motion to go into closed session.
Pursuant to Section 8B of the Michigan Open Meetings Act and upon the request of the student's parents, I move that the Board of Education go into closed session for the purpose of conducting a hearing to consider the discipline of a student whose identity is known to the board as student 051418.
Support. Tracy, was that you? Chris? It's been moved and supported. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. We are going to go into closed session for the hearing, and we will be returning. Okay. Next, the portion of our meeting for public comment. It is a time if you have an issue you would like to address the board, you can come up to the podium. There should be a card up there. You can leave your name and telephone number. It is not a question and answer session, but if you do have an issue that you would like an answer to, someone will get back to you within 24 hours. You have 3 minutes to speak. Is there anyone who would like to address the board? Okay.
There's one in the
try and keep it short, but obviously I've been here for, my name is Nick Mathis. I am the team captain for our high school robotics team. This is Lucas Pajaha, a mechanical captain for our robotics team, and Mr. John Van Gambler, who will be taking over most of the things that Mr. Graves has done this year for next year. Basically our head mentor, just kind of without a title kind of thing. Just to give you a little bit of update, we competed in the World Championship a couple weeks ago. I'll go into more detail. We actually are the True Blue Moment in June, so we'll go ahead and bring it for you guys then. But we were fortunate enough to actually win our division at Worlds and make it all the way to the World Finals, and actually took second in the world. So definitely a huge accomplishment for us to make it that far, and to have the experience for our students, and to have that experience was really cool. So now I guess I kind of go into this part. With the Mrs. Michon retiring and Mr. Graves stepping down due to just being busy, we have people that are willing to step up. So myself and Mr. Van Gampier are willing to kind of take over the team next year, and ways to keep our summer activities going and keeping them throughout the season. So with that being said, we have multiple events that are scheduled throughout the summer, such as off-season competitions, FLL and FTC camps that we're running out of our room, and other things. Basically just team-oriented. We like to meet at least once a week just to try and keep everyone locked in, and we need to have access to the school. So I tried to get key card access for myself and Mr. Van Gampler, and we were denied access today. And I'm not really sure why, because we need to be able to have the access to our room to be able to get in to tow our stuff to events and that kind of thing. So I don't know if there's a key card policy that we can get a copy of or anything of that sort, but there has to be a way for us to get into our room to be able to keep the program thriving, because most of the stuff that we get judged on during the season is actually stuff that we do in the summer, such as those camps and those competitions. So if there's a way that we can try and figure this out, hopefully we can try and figure out something for this, because we need to be able to have access to our materials to be able to keep our team thriving. Considering we just took second in the world, I'd like to keep it at that point, hopefully eventually get first. Thank you.
Anybody else?
Thank you.
I didn't have the intention of talking. Jody Schroeder. I am a teacher and I'm a resident of Richmond. And I don't have any children that go to daycare anymore. Thank God I'm past that point in my life. But I do have grandchildren, and I kind of see the struggle with my kids in finding daycare. And I was at the meeting last time. I had to leave a little bit early, and then I sat through the, obviously, this one today. And kind of like what we're told in the classroom is that this is a business. Richmond is a business. And I was actually on a little committee we had for, we met during the summer on advertising, trying to get ways to get people to come to Richmond. And as I was sitting here, and I was listening to the not picking children up at a business, or like not having a stop, it really kind of concerned me, because we're doing all this advertising trying to bring people to our district, and daycare is a real situation that, like most families, 2 people are working. And it's not just the one daycare this year, it could be a couple of daycares next year, where it could be, we might get more kids that come here if we are able to make that. And if the business is willing to pay, like I feel like it would be really economical for us to give them the opportunity to say, yes, we'll pay it, or no, we don't want to participate in it. And I know it's not a question and answer, but I just think that this is one of the ways that we can advertise. This is one of the positive things that we can do to bring more kids here. And so I just wanted to say that, like, it's a real problem for parents. Thank you.
I'm going to read a letter on behalf of a friend who wasn't able to be here tonight. It has come to my attention that next year the school board may vote to no longer have busing to Treasure Friends daycare. This causes me a lot of distress. I have 2 daughters that will be heading into 2nd and 4th grade next year. My youngest daughter, will start kindergarten. I hope I will be in 2019. They have all gone to Treasure Friends Daycare since they were 3 months old. I depend on them for childcare 3 days a week from 7:30 a.m. to 6:30 p.m. I'm a nurse and work at St. John's Hospital Medical Center starting at 7 a.m. and on a good night I get home from work at 8:30 p.m. Therefore, I depend on someone to transport my girls in the morning and pick them up in the evening. It is comforting to know that once school is out, all 3 of my girls are together at Treasure Friends Daycare, and they are set until 6:30 when a grandparent or aunt can take them home, feed them dinner, and get them ready for bed until I arrive home from work. If busing is no longer available, Treasure Friends Daycare puts me in a difficult position because I have no one to transfer my children from school. Currently, there are 12 other families that get off the bus at Treasure Friends Daycare. From my understanding, many of them will have the same dilemma. I support our school 100%, but this is not a policy that I agree with or support. Sincerely, Amanda Kramer.
Well, I'm Stacy Kramer. I'm the owner of Treasure Friends Daycare. I've had the business for 13 years. During that time, we've been fortunate to have the Richmond School transportation. My kids mainly are from 6 weeks to 5 years, but I do offer the board after-school program because the families requested. Although this component is a very small income, it's not something that I rely on financially. I do it solely just because I have these long-term families. I love them. I've been providing care for them since they were infants. The kids that get off my bus, I've had them since they were 6 weeks old. I don't advertise. I don't intend on advertising. I don't intend on taking any other children. Only the children that I've had from birth and that I care for now. A lot of the kids that get off the bus, their families also go there. The parents have requested me to share with you that they count on being able to drop off and pick up all of their kids at one place instead of multiple stops. Their other concern is that the latchkey or after-school program is not open to 6:30, so they're not sure that they would be able to make it. Some additional concerns I have is that will there be enough space for the children if there is not a bus? Currently, the state of Michigan licensing division shows that the elementary school can only take 22 children in the before and after school program. This is the number that they are licensed for due to the square footage in the classroom that they're located in. So is this going to be a first come, first serve? So some children will be turned away and have nowhere to go. And then if you do have additional space, you will have to provide additional staff, new inspection revisions, and also going forward, are you going to be busing the home daycares? Or is it just going to be strictly daycare centers? Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Anybody else? Next, Board of Education Student Rep Report. Haley.
Okay. To begin with the elementary school, on Saturday, May 12th, 4 junior FLL robotics teams from the elementary competed at Bloomfield Hills Middle School, and each of our teams that competed received an award. So I thought that I should give them a little shout out. The Aquabots received the WaterWise Award. The Water Savers received the Amazing Movement Award. The WaterBots received the Robust Design Award, and Team H2O received the Effort and Learning Award. So congratulations to those students. I know that some of those elementary school students could do a lot more with their little robots than I ever could. So congratulations to them. This whole week, the PTO is sponsoring change wars at the elementary school. So, bringing in your spare change. May 17th is Thursday, Books for Bikes Assembly for the 3rd grade students. May 23rd, so that's next Wednesday, is going to be the celebration of the Change Wars. So they'll have their Change Wars Assembly, and Mr. Cochin and some teacher volunteers are going to get in the dunk tank for those students. May 24th is preschool graduation. May 25th is a school-wide pledge outside by the flagpole, and there'll also be a PBIS raffle assembly, and that's their little Memorial Day tribute at the elementary school. And then on May 29th and May 30th, the PTO is sponsoring Field Day for our elementary schoolers. And then just blanket for all the schools, I wanted to say congratulations to the both casts of James and the Giant Peach. I didn't have the time to help or volunteer with this production, but I did make it out to see it, and it's just always really good to see K through 12 kids just smiling and enjoying it and sharing the stage together. So, congratulations to them on a good show. And then middle school. They had their Mornings with Mom celebration last Friday, and that was well attended. That was a success for Mother's Day. This week, the 5th graders are having their one-room schoolhouse field trip to our historical society to spend the day in one-room schoolhouse and see what that's like. Get to try on the dunce cap and whatnot. The middle school's Memorial Day tribute, they're having a freedom run, 5K. And then this is the time of the year, speaking of the Historical Society, that the student government at the middle school does their annual Historical Society cleanup. And the middle school as well as the high school had band concerts last week, and those are very successful, so congratulations to the band, both middle school and high school band. So now for the high school. Our choir concert at the high school is this Wednesday at 7 p.m. in the high school auditorium. Last week, we had student government-sponsored teacher mock elections for Teacher Appreciation Week. This is our 4th year doing that, and the teachers always, they like it a lot, and the students like to vote. Some examples that I have are Mr. Ogilvy won Best Dressed, Dr. Ladd won Most Likely to be President, and Mr. Rudbein won Best Hair. So that's always good. Dr. Ladd's AP Government classes from his previous year and this year went to DC this past week, and I was fortunate enough to be a part of that trip. So that was a really good experience, seeing everything. Unfortunately, the Supreme Court Justice backed out on us last minute, but it was still a really, really good experience. It's always nice. It's nice going with Dr. Ladd because you don't really need a tour guide or anything or any informational booklets because he knows it all. So I just wanted to thank you on behalf of the 25 parents and students that went to Dr. Ladd and our administration and the school board for allowing us to do that every other year because it really was a really good experience. Our physics class right now is currently creating and flying kites because that's their final. So I know that a couple students are struggling a little bit, but that's their annual little project at the end of the year. Last Friday, the seniors got to walk through the elementary school wearing their caps and gowns. So I know that that's always a really fun experience, not only for the seniors to, I don't know, kind of have that awakening, like, oh, it's time, and the elementary schoolers to see how cool that is. Speaking of that, graduation is going to be Wednesday, the 23rd, next Wednesday at the Macomb Performing Arts Center. And then senior awards are this Thursday at 7 p.m. in the RHS Auditorium. And then finally, the soccer girls stole my thunder a little bit, excited breaking news, but they are BWAC champs, so congratulations to our varsity girls soccer team. That concludes my report.
Thank you, Haley. Next, Superintendent Legislative Updates.
Not much on the legislative front. I did mention earlier, just repeated, this Wednesday is the May Consensus Revenue Estimating Conference. As reported, the revenue projection may be up, which will allow them to settle the budget easier. They are expecting to finalize the budget until May 21st, which will be next week, before they go to the Mackinac Policy Conference, which is on May 21st. The House is Workforce and Talent Development, taking up 2 bills. One is to allow STEM endorsement of students' transcripts or diplomas. And they also unanimously passed the bill, the Senate. This bill was passed by the Senate last year, so I fully anticipate this to be approved. House Bill 5907, which requires notification. It's required by schools now to notify specific families regarding advanced placement testing college level examination, testing period, ID, et cetera. We'll be watching this and what we have to adjust and how we notify families. A little over a week ago, our state superintendent passed away, Brian Winston. My prayers go out to him and his family. They taken a leave of absence on May 3rd and passed away on May 5th. This is a new law that was signed into effect last Thursday, which basically requires that boards permanently expel students who have committed a sexual crime against another pupil in the same school district, regardless of where that happened, and that student can no longer attend the same school building as the victim. So I'm sure you're going to be seeing policy coming forward from NOLA that will adjust and change how we handle having that. We have that potential is there. So. Last Friday, I was able to attend the Early College of Macomb graduation. These are our students that committed in their 11th grade year to go 5 years. We have 5 students that graduated who Friday night received their associate's degree from Macomb Community College. Basically, they had 2 years of college done, debt-free, and they're going on to bigger and better things. Alexis Anthony, Eric Donato, Emily Kazermak, I apologize, Kara Olson, and Robert Trump. 4 of them were at the graduation ceremony and celebration ceremony last Friday. There was 180 graduates in the early college program. When it first started 6 years ago, there was 50. The program has grown tremendously. Kids are going to great things that are leaving that college. It was a little disappointing because only one person was going into education out of those 180 students. Last year there was 4. I'd like to give a shout out to the EMT program. I received an email from Jeff White, Chief of EMS, that one of our students, 2 of our students passed the National Registry for EMT licensing. So once they reach their 18th birthday, they can begin working as on EMS vehicles. One of the students, Marianne Cloud, already graduated 18. She applied for a license, and she's already been offered a job by Richmond Lennox EMS, graduating high school as an EMT. So we've got a lot more interest in the program next year, so we're hoping that continues to grow. And finally, I'll give a shout out to Mr. Howard Stewart. He got his 1,000th win this weekend in his career. That's a remarkable accomplishment. Haley mentioned a lot of graduation ceremonies. The award ceremony is going to be all coming up. It is on the district website under calendar. We have everywhere from kindergarten through 11th grade, actually 12th grade with this coming Thursday, with kindergarten through 12th grade award ceremonies coming up. So if you want the date and time, just look on the district calendar. That's it.
Okay, thank you. Next, items of interest from members of the board. Does anybody have anything? I attended one of the performances of James and the Giant Peach, and it was great. They did a really good job. It was very fun. So kudos to all those kids that were involved in that.
Thank you, Margaret, for your work. You always have extra work beyond what the rest of us do, but particularly I know you took your employee appreciation gifts. You did that on your own, running around and doing that and making sure that that happened. So I just want to thank you for your time for that.
Scared the Jesus out of Chris Reinhardt about getting in the office there, but custodian let me in, and my big, loud, booming voice come in the office, and he was all by himself in there. So I apologize to him there. I apologize to him again. Sorry. Okay, moving on to our action items. The first one is our discipline hearing, student 051418.
I motion that following a closed session hearing, the board votes to suspend a student whose identity is known to the Board of Education consistent with the attached resolution.
Support.
It's been moved and supported. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Next is the overnight European tour trip. We had our presentation by Mrs. Smallwood. There is a sample resolution.
A motion to accept the recommendation of the superintendent and include the European tour overnight trip as presented in the attached documentation.
Support.
It's been moved and supported. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Next, social studies literacy library books.
This is an overview. This was presented a couple weeks ago, so not the last one, it was the previous. It's been approved in our Title I grant. This is the fourth phase of the process. We did level readers, nonfiction. Last year we did science. This brings out social studies content that teachers should use in their classrooms at the elementary school.
There's a sample resolution.
A motion to accept the recommendation of the superintendent, approve the purchase of literacy library books as listed in the attached documentation for a total not to exceed $60,550.54, which funding from the appropriate 2017-18 Title I grant is authorized and presented in the attached documentation. Support.
It's been moved and supported. Any discussion? Hearing none, I'll do a roll call vote. Tracy?
Aye.
Sarah? Dave?
Aye.
Kyle?
Aye.
Chris?
Aye.
I vote aye. Motion carries. Next, independent classroom libraries.
You heard about, from Mr. Gillespie, I believe it was the last one, we talked about how he uses one of the components of reading, as you can see in the backup, is the ability for students to have independent reading in the classroom. And many of our classrooms do have their own personal libraries that teachers have gathered and collected over the years. This would put a level books in each of our 20 classrooms, assuming we have 4 sections. For next year, it's approved in our Title I grant. So we're asking you to approve the resolution.
Motion to accept the recommendation of the superintendent to approve the purchase of independent classroom libraries as listed in the attached documentation for a total not to exceed $84,014.59, which funding from the appropriate 2017-18 Title I grant is authorized and presented in the attached documentation.
Support. It's been moved and supported. Any discussion? Hearing none, I'll do a roll call. Sarah? Chris?
Aye.
Tracy?
Aye.
Kyle?
Aye.
Dave?
Aye.
And I vote aye. Motion carries. Next, bus purchase.
The resolution is Brian, just to make sure you've got a revised one that has the red ink on it. It's a dollar amount figure. This would be part of the Series 3 bond purchases. We reported the bus now. It'll be here in time for this. Barring any situation with the company, it should be very time for the first day of school.
Does everybody have the updated one? Okay.
Motion to accept the recommendation of the superintendent and approve the purchase of 177 passenger bus from Holland Bus Company at the cost of $81,523 as specified in the attached quote, and for which funding from the 2013 November bond is authorized as indicated on the attached document.
Support.
It's been moved and supported. Any discussion? Hearing none, I'll do a roll call vote. Sarah? Kyle?
Aye.
Dave?
Aye.
Tracy?
Aye.
Chris?
Aye.
And I vote aye. Motion carries. Next, bus camera systems.
As I said, integrated, this is the 8-bus camera system, replacing 6 that have VHS. The 7th one is the purchase of the bus that we did last year, and the 8th one is the bus system that we're purchasing. They just approved.
Motion to accept the recommendation of the superintendent and approve the purchase of an 8-bus camera system, A, parts warehouse as listed in the attached documentation for a total not to exceed $17,944, for which funding from the 2013 Dover bond is authorized and presented in the attached.
Support.
Okay, it's been moved and supported. Any discussion? Hearing none, I'll do a roll call vote. Sarah? Dave?
Aye.
Kyle?
Aye.
Chris?
Aye.
Tracy?
Aye.
I vote aye. Motion carries. Next, donation for athletic field improvements. It's the presentation that we had earlier. There's a sample.
Motion to accept the recommendation of the superintendent, accept the donation for the athletic field improvements from the Foster family and Foster Oil.
Support.
supported. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Next, non-renewal of contract.
This is based on our conversation at the last board meeting regarding the Director of Curriculum and Educational Services. In his contract, it requires a notification of at least 30 days.
Motion to accept the recommendation of the superintendent and non-renew the contract of the Director of Curriculum and Educational Services for budgetary reasons, effective July 1st, 2018, as presented in the attached documentation, and direct the superintendent to issue any and all appropriate notifications.
Support. Chris, was that you? It's been moved and supported. Any discussion?
I have fought to keep this position multiple years. This is not easy for me to see this position go, just because the budget prioritizes what you believe in. And curriculum is the meat and potatoes of what we do. And so this position, it's a struggle to watch it go. I have faith that the reorganization will work. I have faith that there will be someone looking at the big picture of curriculum, because classroom teachers can't do that. They have lots of other things to do. So I have faith that it will continue on and good work will continue to happen. But it is not easy to have this position go. And thank you, Anthony, for your good work.
Anybody else? Okay, it's been moved and supported. After discussion, all those in favor, aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Next, motion to go into closed session. There's a sample.
I make a motion to go into closed session for attorney-client communications pursuant to section 8H of the Michigan Open Meetings Act.
Support.
Second.
It's been moved and supported. Any discussion? Hearing none, I'll do a roll call. Chris? Aye. Kyle?
Aye.
Dave?
Aye.
Tracy?
Aye.
Sarah? I vote aye. Motion carries. We are going to go into closed session. We will be returning, but we won't be doing any voting on anything.